ready, Lisa?
I think we are. Scott, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn the volume up. I'm just going to go over real quick what we handed out to the committee and let them take it from there. Community members, we have been making 75 copies of everything since April, and we've always had 20 left. So I'm sorry that we don't have enough for everyone this evening. If you'll share tonight, we will make more copies for next time. Yes, ma'am. You should have an agenda, the minutes from the last meeting, the comments, and information about the study areas, grades K through 5. Okay, so committee members, what you have is, of course, the agenda and the minutes that you've approved. You've got a spreadsheet that looks just like the ones we've had at the middle and the high school level. It includes, for every study area, the demographics of the students who live there, who are currently enrolled in Fayette County Public Schools, as well as private and homeschool. Through Let's Talk, there have been 135 comments. I have probably responded to 75 of them. We had like 50 come in overnight, and I could not finish all of those while also preparing for your meeting.
Lisa,
yes, sir.
Can you explain to the community members what that is?
Yes, certainly. We have an online engagement tool that is linked to our website. It's also linked off of the rezoning page, where we post everything. And it's a place where people are invited to submit their comments. It comes through as an email. I take those and with Hannah's help every week, and we take them word for word and hand them to the committee so that the committee has the benefit of hearing from the community directly. Some people have written back, and once we respond, then the community members either have the opportunity to respond back or the dialogue is closed. We have some people who are upset that I didn't engage them in a debate or respond to their specific concerns. That's for the committee. You know, I'm not a decision maker. All I am is the vehicle for getting your opinion directly to them. So it's not that we don't care what you say, it's that I'm the messenger between the, I'm just the liaison. So all of those comments are in here. The majority of them are about specific schools and specific neighborhoods, some of whom were under the impression that decisions had been made about middle school zones. And then you should have some draft scenarios, and we just need you to tell us where you want to go and what you want to talk about, and we'll hand those out as you guys choose what to talk about. Okay, Scott, I'm turning them loose on you.
Okay, I'm going to show my screen then.
Is Ron here too?
He was here for a while, but I don't think he's here. Wait, Ron, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Great.
I don't see you as being logged on. Can you see my screen?
It says waiting to view presenter screen. So.
Hey, Lisa, before we get started, can I ask a question? I apologize if this is a repeat question. No. But 2016 elementary, 2017 high school, have we discussed when the rezoning for the middle school will take place? No. As you know, in the charge to this committee, there was a request from the board for you to also recommend an implementation plan. And in that implementation plan would be, of course, we know, as you're saying, in 2016, we're opening 2 new elementary schools. The new zones will take effect then. In 2017, we're opening the new high school. Of course, we'll need the zones then for the high school level. How you do that, or how you recommend that the board do that, is, you haven't even gotten to that level of discussion yet. Whether you'll allow students to stay, whether you'll do family's choice, what level of grandfathering, whether there will be transportation or not. All of those things will still be discussed publicly by the committee.
Okay, folks, have at it.
Our screen's not showing Matt.
Okay.
None of our.
Scott, is that Scott or Lisa?
Yes, sir.
We're not getting.
You're not getting that? Okay.
Screens. This is very.
Mark, do we need Hannah? Okay. Hannah, are you in the room?
Is anybody getting the screen?
I am.
It's up on the big screen, but the laptops are not there yet.
Okay.
Then, okay, that's 063, right?
Join meeting, which is at the top middle. You see that?
Yep.
All right. Check on that. Number is 986
63.
597.
Are you in?
Arrow? Perfect. Yep. Got it?
Okay, are all the committee members in?
Got it? You up, Jack? Everybody got it? Lester? Good. David? Good? We're good. Debbie's got more? Not yet. I don't know.
Are we ready to get going?
Just a second, Scott.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to put it up all
What? You got it?
our laptops here. Where is it? Okay, we have put some comment cards on the back table if anyone does want to forward questions to us, and that's DAVIDO apostrophe. No, it'll go to all of us, too. All right, before we go anywhere, committee, so that we can content, let's try to focus today. I think, we looked at an awful lot of scenarios in trying to how we could create our closest balance on the free and reduced fields in our last meeting, high school level. Let's leave that intact, which I believe is high school scenario B. Folks,
Yes.
leave that alone today, Scott.
Okay.
Leave that in. And let's concentrate as best we can on some middle school scenarios beyond, obviously, the few minutes we spent on it last time around. With the hope that perhaps we could come up with something that looks akin to workable, and we can begin at least a prelim. I'm hopeful that by the end of today we can begin our conversation about what some elementary school zones might look at. If we don't get there, we don't, but let's at least concentrate on the middle schools today.
Hey, Alan?
Yes, someone.
Can we have Scott explain the secondary school migration pattern for we got?
Sure. Scott, did you hear that?
I did.
Okay.
That's another way.
Okay. This data here, the middle school and high school migration, secondary school migration patterns, is taken directly from the attendance matrices. I put this in this form just so it's easy to see what schools, because, again, as we're doing everything by where students live, because we want to get the facilities to the proper location of where they are, we don't want to put facilities or have facilities open in areas where there's no students. We do everything by where the students reside. But that doesn't necessarily reflect the enrollment of each school. We also look at, there's also, a lot of these schools have some magnet programs. So that's what the attendance matrix does, but I put this in a little bit easier to read chart so we can see what the migration is. So for example, in Beaumont Middle School, there's 1,213 students living in that area. There's 1,082 that are enrolled, or that reside and are enrolled in there. and there's 1,101 that are enrolled. So that means you're getting 19 students, Beaumont's getting 19 students from outside their attendance area enrolling into Beaumont, and they're losing 131 students out to another school, another program, etc., with a net loss of 112 students. Now, this is based on the 2013-14 student data, but it should be fairly similar at this case. So you can see that, you know, like Lexington and Traditional, which is, I believe, the majority of Magnet, they're the ones who are gaining the most there. And then some like Leestown is actually losing a lot of students to other schools and other programs. And then when you look down at the high school, you can see that Lafayette is the only school that actually has a net gain. The rest are going to various programs at other schools or throughout the district. So that's what this is saying. So as we're taking that into account, we can look at where the students are, and we can also take into account that we're going to need to have some room for these capacities for these students for their special programs. And I worked with Bob. Bob sent me some information, and Lisa, about the capacities for middle school, and we made some adjustments to those capacities so they reflect leaving room for those students in those special programs. So that's what
and
that
just
is.
for clarity, the Lafayette aberration clearly is a result of SCAPA. I think we would agree, right?
And a pre-engineering program.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, so you said you wanted to work on the middle schools, and I've got up the middle school scenario A. This is the one where I just tried to get each school into a good feeder pattern to our high school scenario B. I don't know, I also created, and I'm sure you guys have those maps, and let me get them up here. I did a middle school to capacity and a middle school closest, and I'm going to open those real quick. So
They're not labeled. Got an A.
Closest school, closest capacity. Middle school A, middle school, closest, and middle school capacity.
Yes. I think that's it.
Alan,
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment
Yes, Sam.
about the middle school. And you guys are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I think that we should start with the current in order to discuss the least amount of kids, and then any changes that we need to make, look at the feeder pattern from that. And here again, I'm just thinking about disrupting the kids, you know, the least amount as possible.
The map that we're looking at here, is that based off of the high school scenario B or C? We're going to kind of work on C, what we just said. So we have
The current,
Current.
can you bring up the current one? Bob?
the current MSA.
Current school boundaries. Of course, that's just my opinion, but
This is the current middle school boundaries.
Here's middle school current.
it was from last week. We had to pull up one from last week. We didn't give you one. We got it last week.
And the black lines are
The current middle school boundaries are the black lines.
Okay. Oh, is that my phone?
And the shaded areas are the ones trying to correspond, and that this is corresponding with scenario B. Scenario, excuse me?
I'm sorry.
Scenario C was only one change in this area here, so it's going to be very similar to this.
My concern is that we start recreating maps from every time we start everywhere, we're going to end up with 10 maps, and we have to combine those. So if we're going to work on the premise for starting with scenario C, let's just match up what the middle schools look like with scenario C, see where we're starting from here, and then make adjustments from that.
Well, scenario C is, you're talking about the current
does the middle school tie with the
I don't think
high school
this-
boundary of C?
I don't think this is the map on the screen. This is
No.
this is a different map. The one that we're looking for is the one that is the actual current boundaries now.
Okay. I'll do that in a second here. Let's just let this go. I do believe I have that.
Was that what those deals have?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what we're going back to the original map, because this is creating over the map.
This is the current boundaries with scenario B laid on top in the black lines, but these are the current boundaries, the shaded areas.
Okay, that's the current map.
Scott, our maps are not titled B. We've got the high school scenario C, and we have middle school scenario A,
Right.
but we're not seeing a B.
The current one is from last week. I had it pulled from last week, Alan. We didn't get a new one this week. We got it last week for the current.
Yeah, and there is no middle school B yet. So we have. Let's just. What I provided you. Let's just look at this real quick. I've given you a middle school with current attendance areas, and that should be right here. I've provided for scenario A. I've also done a middle school to the closest school, regardless of capacities. And then I've done a middle school to closest school to capacity. So there's 4 scenarios or 4 maps of middle school. Only one is a true scenario A. The others are a current, and the other 2 is computer generated. That makes sense.
On the one map closest school to capacity, you got the shaded areas. Tell us what that is.
These areas here,
The unassigned.
those are unassigned areas that they couldn't find a school they could go to that was non-contiguous. They couldn't find an adjacent school to go to fit the students that are in these study areas. So these are unassigned areas to a school.
How many kids are we talking about?
Unassigned is 849.
149.
And remember, that's because he capped the capacity. In the other map, it's just closest school. Everybody's in their closest school, whether that takes them to 150% capacity or 25% capacity.
Well, in this scenario, we're at 48% for Crawford
Right.
and 106 for Tate's Creek. Am I reading this correctly?
Tate's Creek is 106 should be, because did I lower Tate's Creek capacity? Yeah. It should have just been to 700 there, but when we lowered Tate's Creek capacity to 700, so yeah, 106% at Tate's Creek. But should be actually take a couple of those study areas away to get it to 700. So what I suggest, I think, is somebody asked they want to see the scenario A, or what now I'm calling a scenario B, to correspond with the middle school or the high school C. So let's go there and start there.
Exactly. What is A? A is the parent. That's based. He's right here.
Okay. So the shaded areas are the middle school boundaries, and the dark lines are the scenario C. So if we want to be true to what we had said, where we want to keep good feeder patterns, I'm going to move these areas right here, this 31, 139, this whole area to, I think that's, what school is that? I can't even think, to Crawford.
Well, let's just see what this looks like, then we can kind of go.
These things, I
Maybe
think,
Brian State.
the maps are, they range from 48% to 129% strong.
Do all the committee members,
A lot of that.
are you with what's happening right now?
Yeah.
High school scenario C, which is the one you left off with at your last meeting, and taking middle school scenario A, or did you want current middle schools?
What the middle, if we were to say right now, this is the plan we're going with is high school D,
Yes.
what does middle school look like at that point?
Right now is middle school?
We get somewhere to start.
Okay. Scott,
Yeah.
can you give a high school scenario C and put our current middle school boundaries on that?
Sure
So
can.
we can see how far apart those two things are.
Okay. Let me
Thank
just.
you. Okay, so the dark lines now are is high school scenario C.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
So that means this is Station, New School, no.
No.
New School,
Right.
Henry Clay, Tates Creek, Lafayette, Dunbar, Bryan Station. And now he's doing shaded areas to show current boundaries. So right now blue is current Edith J. Hayes, so your high school boundary is going right through. Green is Crawford. Gray is Bryan Station Middle, so we're splitting Bryan Station Middle between the new high school and the Bryan Station. You guys follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to get out of your way so you can see.
So they're pretty far off from scenario C,
Yeah, they're, all of them are
Yeah.
splitting.
except for Southern. It looks like is the only one.
And as the committee should recall, middle school scenario A was when Scott took your high school boundaries and just assigned 2 middle schools to every boundary. That was designed to show you what you're seeing here, which is how far off your high school boundaries are from current boundaries.
Right.
So this is scenario A that goes along with scenario B, and then this is middle school scenario C, or B. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start from a good place of great feeder patterns, or do we want to start from an area of the least amount of changes possible? So let's, we've got to decide that.
With our process, let's start with the least impact first and see what that looks like.
Okay.
That's what we've done so far on all our scenarios. Doesn't mean that's where it's going to land. But
But how, Alan?
these are just drafts.
Because the least impact is not to change any middle schools,
Right.
not to care about feeder patterns, stick with the high school zones you drew, and not touch middle schools. But we have crowded middle schools. We have some middle schools under capacity. So when you say the least amount of changes, how do you want him to judge that? You want him to go to close the school with the least amount of changes? Feeder pattern with the least amount of changes?
We've been working from capacity, haven't we?
Can we see what the...
I mean, I think it's worth seeing all of those things.
I'm sorry, James, speak again.
Can we see what the closest to capacity map looks like in that
Right.
high school footprint?
Okay, I didn't quite get that.
Okay, the closest capacity, the closest school map to capacity, meaning there's unassigned areas in it, matched with high school scenario C. And Scott, are the shaded areas the unassigned areas?
Yes, those dark shaded areas are unassigned.
They're artificially unassigned because we're holding to the capacity.
Correct.
100%.
Right. Just for the benefit of the community and our listening audience, you may not realize, but we actually are taping every single one of these conversations and posting them on the website. So if you want to go back through and see every change that you have seen on the screen here, that's recorded and available for viewing. So the way that this computer set scenario works is it looks at every single study area, which are the little tiny that Fayette County into. And from the center point of those little puzzle pieces, it assigns them to the closest middle school. And then it does that until it fills up. So it starts from the center and it goes out. And when the school is full, it stops assigning study areas to that school. So that's where you see these areas in gray. Edith J. Hayes was full before he got to these, before the computer got to assign the areas out here in gray.
Exactly, Lisa. You got it perfectly correct.
I don't think computer patterns is going to get messed up. No way.
Yeah,
There's
there's no way to do it.
If you guys could talk into the mic, that would be easier for us all here.
We keep talking about trying to disrupt the least amount of feeder patterns, but that's absolutely impossible. If we're moving lines to add a new high school, there's no way we're not going to disrupt some feeder patterns. You know, we stated from the get-go of what we were trying to do as part of, hey, let's try to keep it as neighborhood-centric as possible. I think we should work on that premise and realize that that is going to disrupt a feeder pattern, and that's just, it's inevitable. There's no way around it.
I think you're not going to be able to accomplish perfect feeder patterns.
Right. Yeah.
No, not necessarily. And you also, you're trying to balance. There's actually three different things you guys have been looking at.
Hey, hang on, Scott, we've got two people talking.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, a lot of the feedback that we're getting is neighborhood,
Right.
closest school type of.
But how about if we try to the closest school to capacity, but with the least amount of changes? Does that make sense? Can we do that?
I think that's what we did.
That's kind
Okay,
of,
Scott, in order to show that, I think you would have to take your closest school to capacity map and then overlay existing middle school boundaries.
okay.
Yeah.
And middle school and high school too.
And high school C. Yeah.
All right.
You do high school C too, you're going to,
Just the boundary so we can see where it fits.
okay, but then you're asking him to put three things on the same map, so get ready for overload. Can that be done, Scott? Can you do like high school scenario C in red?
Sure can.
And, okay, that's why we love you.
I think we're on time. So that's high school C. That's high school C.
That's current middle schools.
So ugly.
High school C are red. Current middle schools are in black. Shaded areas are, and I'm going to let me turn off the school names. That might help a little bit. And I'm going to change the color here of Windburn also. It's too close to Beaumont. So, you know, what does this really tell us? Because we're trying to balance a lot of different things here. We're looking at feeder patterns. We're looking at the capacities of each individual school. We're looking at free and reduced lunch, and we're looking at, you know, the different high school scenarios, something's got to give at some point, and we have to prioritize. Is it more important to have nice, concise feeder patterns in nice neighborhood schools, or are we just carried about, let's make the best school to the capacity as we can, regardless of feeder patterns, or where do we have to prioritize at some point?
I don't see how feeder patterns can be a priority if we're going to make it work in the school scenarios we're talking. I think, in my opinion, that may be working the lowest priority.
I agree, because I think the biggest thing we've heard is close to school.
Yeah. Anybody disagree with that? I agree.
We don't have good feeder patterns now, so I don't know that that's. I agree it's probably one of the lower priorities. Ron, I'm sorry.
Well, at the high school level, we're used to working with lots of different middle school kids coming in, so that wouldn't be like a new adjustment for us either.
Okay. So getting nice neighborhood middle schools with the least amount of changes and disruption seems to be the more priority, as long as it still fits in our criteria of undercapacity and our free and reduced lunch is still, similar to what it is now, or fix whatever, whatever the criteria is. So does that sound correct?
So committee, given that feedback, do you want us to take off the high school overlay?
Yeah, I think the high school doesn't matter right now.
Okay. So Scott, if you can take out the red. So like, for example, just, because I'm standing here, okay. The blue is sending to Edith J. Hayes closest school to capacity. But this black line is the current zone. So all of this blue is not currently in Hayes.
And the gray at the bottom is still unsigned.
And all of this is unassigned. But remember, this is going to be very few kids. Let's go over to our study areas.
That should be good.
Which is 900.
Oh, I mean the specific area.
Like down here, in this big, huge study area right here, can you guys see this one, this big red one? It's 6 kids. So there's 6 kids out there unassigned. This piece right here is 4, and out here is 26. And all of this is outside, because remember, your dark line here is your urban services boundary. So all of this is outside the urban services boundary, which means that you won't let them build houses.
Lisa, can we take the, where you're talking about that's not currently in Hayes, towards the Crawford side? If we take that out and put it where it is now, and then would we have room, and like I said, in regards to Hayes, he doesn't really want his numbers lowered anyway, so if it's over capacity, he likes the numbers where it's at now. So can we look at it that way?
Yeah, let's give him those 6 kids. I think it'd be all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, guys, you direct Scott what changes you want him to make.
Scott, did you understand that? The part that's going to Hayes now that was not there before, that's currently not going to Hayes, can we take that out?
Yes, we can.
And that way, from that boundary, Hayes will be the same that it is now. And then add in that gray area into Hayes.
Could
We can look here and see. Okay.
I'm going to mute for a second. I'm sorry.
Just one school at a time, though.
Right.
We've got to look at continue to look at the overall numbers as they impact everywhere. And it's great that we've got someone who's willing to take more capacity, but that may not be what we want to end up doing.
Okay, so what that did was that brought Crawford up to 455 and brought Hayes down to 745.
Which one?
It did help with the balancing.
Did you add those unassigned 36 kids?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I did not. The ones at the south end of the district?
Yes, all the way to the extreme south.
Okay. And wrong. That brings Hayes back up to 778. Probably should add.
Okay, now, we still have some Hays that are beyond their current boundary.
Yeah, these.
Yeah,
These right here.
right there, in that little pie piece.
778, 98.
I've got, these are students that are less than, the hash are study areas with less than 5 students, and these gray, dark gray, are study areas with no students. So this didn't really help anything.
Those are all 0 students, did I understand that?
Yes, this dark gray here is 0 students. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just have one symbol for all of this. And anything less than 5 students is going to have a hash symbol. Cross symbol. Cross hash. Does this come across on the video, across your computers well? Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So these have 0, so they either have 5 or less students in them.
But not really.
Scott, since you added that, I think you need to make the current boundaries a little thicker, because now it looks like it's hard to tell what
What's what, yeah. Should I make the current boundaries in the red now? Is that visible? Can you see the current boundaries in red?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still a little something. Doesn't matter.
Can we take change to a current boundary?
No, we only have 25 seats left here.
How many unassigned kids are left now? Still 900.
If they're in this
859.
area,
Right here.
could they go into Hayes?
Well, they could have. We can't add 900 kids for Hayes.
We can assign these right here.
But Alan, could they take to current boundaries?
Yeah.
The current boundaries? Can you do one section like this?
You know what? We're going to need the study area numbers for that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Well, the top left unassigned area there that's right by the blue section of Hayes,
Add it into Hayes.
just add it in. Right to the left, right here.
All right, so now we have study area numbers. Where are we looking?
319, 323, 649, 105.
And bring that to Hayes.
Yeah.
.321 is also in the old, but that actually kind of looks like it should go well in the new one here. So now we have to bring something out of here because that brought us up to 867. Yeah.
What about 101, 604, and 603, like between those 2 pie wedges going to Crawford?
Okay.
Which ones do we want?
So that does help. That there's a good amount of students there.
Helps a lot, looks like.
How many students in those 3 study areas?
110 students.
So we moved them from Hayes to Crawford. We balanced 2 schools with that move. I don't know. I don't have a clue what neighborhoods they are.
And why are we doing that?
Bob, where's Bob?
Why did we move those kids?
Capacity. So this helped Crawford up and it brought Hayes less students. Where we can
That
make
allows-
But having
that allows some of those other unassigned students on the other boundary of Hayes to be shifted to Hayes then.
you mean like right here.
Is that the only option we have to bring Crawford up? Or is there another option?
But we need to look on the other
Yeah,
side.
let's look on the other side.
Now remember these hash are less than 5 students.
Right.
Right.
So we can dig down into here with Crawford.
It's right down here, where it goes in the purple. I know you can't see where I'm pointing, but see, can you bring up the numbers? Like, what is that?
424, 425, 428. These?
Right here.
And you want to put those in Crawford?
As opposed to the other area.
Is there a way to see maybe the major roads here? Because I'm concerned that we're starting to chop up neighborhoods, some of these tweakings we're doing here.
Does that help?
You want to look at this map?
Yes.
And it's got the numbers, the study area, 6 and 8, grade kid, 15, 20, 30, 20. Richmond Road, Liberty Road.
So we're in the Liberty Road area, but what we want to look at is on the other side of Crawford to see if there's a way to balance without moving those neighborhoods.
What about this area right here, as opposed to over here? Because see, this kind of I know we're not looking at it, but we are looking at the household pattern here, so would it make more sense to put that over here than that? Is that currently Crawford?
Yes.
So would that make sense?
Right there.
I'm not right here, because they have the red line here.
What numbers are those? All right. Scott, can we put those last 3, what were they, 101?
Areas 228,
Can we put those back in Hayes? And now we want to try to move into Crawford. What are the numbers, Sandra?
That you, I can't see the number. Oh, we moved it. 18, 189, 429, 190. I know.
Did you hear that, Scott?
I did.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, let's
Oh, okay.
It's going right along the red line. 429, 18, 189, 646, 643, and 190. Those were currently Crawford. We were going to put them back in. Yeah, put them back in.
Oh, quiet, fellas. Let's add in here.
That did bring Crawford up to 556.
Did you put the other area back to the hay?
I did.
And it doesn't take care of the problem with hay.
Hayes is still over. We still have to find somewhere to cut there.
How many, what's the number for hay?
863.
We got 1,076 now.
He's one that said he's happy with that.
And he will, yes, I mean, he would take 1,076.
We also can't guarantee that principal's always going to be there either.
Right.
And that's a growing area, that school's always going to get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, could we get, maybe Jim has some numbers on projected development in the Hayes area that's inside the urban service boundary. Do you have any idea what type of projected development we have?
I do.
You want to share them with us?
I've given my notes to Lisa.
I just got them, y'all.
Committee, it's 540, it looks like, approximately.
Okay, so in the area right around Hayes, no, that's on the other side of 75. Yeah. Okay, so Hayes cross on Richmond Road there. Okay, so across Richmond Road from Hayes, there are 241 units left to be built. And I don't know,
What does the formula say that is in kids?
we just got these numbers today, Al.
What's our rule of thumb?
Bob, do you have a rule of thumb?
About one student per building. That particular one. So they'll be back at 1,000. Earlier this week, that's the news.
Yeah.
240 units to be built.
Could potentially be a house.
Right.
He says this particular neighborhood doesn't produce. The area right where Hayes is in the right surrounding area, they're not anticipating a whole lot more. But depending on how far you take it, on the other side of 75, they're expecting another 396.
Before we go down that road, it seems as though the elephant in the room right at the moment are those 900 unassigned kids. So no matter what we do here, once we deal with them. So Scott, I'm wondering if we can't assign all of those 900 kids just so that we get them into our deliberations, into the closest school, irrespective to capacity at the moment.
Okay. Well, that would be our closest school. Yeah.
And that includes all of the?
Yes.
Okay.
There are no assigned matches in regular scenario.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one it is.
Middle school plus
Is this, I got it. Yeah.
So if you would go with that and focus on the school.
Yeah, but to be clear, that puts us at 174% at Tate's Creek, 133 at Southern, 126 at Jesse Clark's, and Crawford at 47.
Can we look at this and Hayden Allen? Can we compare this to the current school to see what's different, to see where we might want to read and talk from there? The closest school and then the current?
That, I think that would be valuable. Can we do a quick comparison with this middle school closest school scenario versus the current situation? See how far off we are.
For areas of, yeah.
We're thinking that might identify a couple of obvious areas for us.
Okay, side by side here. Here's your current attendance areas, and these are your closest school.
Yeah, but can we see the map? Oh, like an overlay, so there might be some obvious areas that we can move to get like the 174 down. Can we see that in the map, the closest and the current?
That's what this is.
Okay, there it is, okay.
Scott, we also have a question from a committee member about what the software can do for us. And the thought was, could you take the unassigned students, distribute them among the 3 schools that touch that area, and then pull from the other edge of those zones and put those students into Crawford, so that you would shrink that one side to pull in the unassigned students?
That was why I made the suggestion of moving those 3 areas from Hayes to Crawford, because it freed up space. But,
Yeah, we can do that, and that's pretty much what we were doing. We were taking away from Hayes on the northeast side, and we were bringing back from the southwest, and that's what we were trying to do. So yeah, that's very possible to do. It's just a matter of what we want to do, where we want to do it. It's
Like that's in the current, basically in the current Crawford zone.
No, it's in Hayes.
It's all in Hayes.
What is?
That's currently in Crawford, but this proposal puts it in Hayes. That was the subdivision I was talking about.
It's 1,248 new housing units.
Here's a railroad track up here. Right.
It's right here.
But, so everything's signed here, correct? Okay, well, and how about if we do that the lot? Well, what I'm looking at, Brenda, is like, there's some areas like this stands out, and this should go back where it was. This part of Hayes goes back to Crawford. It probably this goes back to Crawford. And then like up on this line, go back to where it was. Yeah. But, you know, take this map and then adjust it from here. Like if they want more Crawford, take, because here you're moving from Crawford to Hayes, you can these people back in to where they are now. And same here, this back in Crawford, because they're there now, so put them backwards. I mean, that's what right now anyway.
And the new areas would lead into Crawford.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
The way I do this when I'm working with other districts, and we want to make sure that all are under capacity, I just start with one school, kind of like we were doing, and work on that, and then move to the next, get them all where they're at, and then make more adjustments from there. So I think instead of just hodgepodging and grabbing around this study here, this study there, we should just really concentrate doing one school at a time, getting as close to capacity as we can.
Okay, Scott.
We're going to concentrate then on Hayes and Crawford and the scenarios that are moving those intermediates around them.
And Scott, what I'm looking at is, you see, okay, the red line is the current, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You lost me.
Sorry.
Okay. So for the Crawford area, if we're trying to put more into Crawford, then the part that by doing this we have moved from Crawford to Hayes, can we make that to the current boundary, to the red line?
Yes, we
The
can.
blue part that's been changed to Hayes, it's not going to Hayes now? So that boundary would be the same as the current one.
I have a question while we're working on that. What's the capacity percentage that we're shooting for Crawford?
Okay, and then
It depends on whether the new housing starts that Jim just shared with us, 1,248, if they are going to be in Hayes or the Crawford area as we build them out. And if we're going to build them out there, we don't have to be as concerned with a lower capacity number at Crawford right now, because it's going to fill itself just organically. But if we move those, if we move this scenario over to where those new developments are going to go into Hayes, we're going to have to move a lot out of Hayes now to make that happen. And I'm not sure that's a good idea.
And Jim, you said 242 units?
1,200.
That's in the Crawford area you're talking
It's in
about.
the Crawford area right now.
Okay, and then in the Hayes area, you're saying 200 and something homes, and I think Bob said one child per home. So
he said for that area, not even that. He said there's not very many children at all in that area, the Ellerslie area, and he said it's not even that many. Did you, Bob?
I thought there was a future development.
In Ellerslie, there is a future development now, whether they'll include children, but there's another 241 units to be built in Ellerslie.
And if you just had to go just at a rough estimate, you may say about, what, 100 kids, right?
That's Bob says that.
Okay.
Ellerslie, you said not very many children.
Hardly any elementary school students. There are
Today.
a few high school, yeah.
But we're talking about with the future development that takes place.
I mean, it could easily double or triple or quadruple, and it's still only 20.
And the only reason I say that is because when we started talking before, we wanted to make sure that we are leaving schools with some future capacity.
Right.
So I think it's important in the discussion where somebody said, well, the principal could be comfortable right now, but if you got another 100 something kids showing up at your doorstep in the future, you got to be careful about that.
And Scott, the one area that we had moved before, can we move that back in the one little leg area that's in Crawford now? Put it back to Crawford?
This
yes,
area?
There. Did before.
And I would suggest this is a nice little area that might go to Crawford too. That's a good break point.
Alan, how's that look?
I don't know what the numbers are. I can't see them.
Just put in 11, 12, Richmond Road.
It brings Crawford up to 712 at 85%, and Hayes at 94%.
That's pretty
That's
good.
pretty good.
So we can move up, or we can move down and try to work on the next one. That's how I would do it. Or we could.
Let's move toward Tate's Creek now.
Yeah, and Jesse Carter. And just to remind the committee, at your last meeting, you requested that we move the capacity numbers, adjust the capacity numbers down, and that has been done. So we set aside 200 students based on the last 5 years at Tate's Creek Middle. We set aside 250 at Bryan Station Middle based on the gross in the Spanish immersion program.
Wasn't that 350?
You're right, it is 350 because he's got 106 graders.
Yeah.
And then set aside 150 at Windburn.
Right.
So when he shows you that they're at 100% capacity, that still includes the 200 seats for the magnet kids.
And that's okay down to 94%, so it's under. So they're doing great.
The whole thing about that, I don't want to book this.
Well, exactly.
Are these,
Yeah, ever.
well,
Yeah.
Now we have and Chase Creek Middle. Where is
Okay, so what I would do here, looking at it, is I would give Morton some more students.
Right. Right. What we're looking at now, Scott, is moving some folks out of the Tates Creek and southern boundaries and moving them to Morton, where that might make some sense.
Something like this. Now Morton is still at only 90%. There we go.
Take it all the way around, keep going down to the right.
Right. Moving all of those. Out of Tates Creek.
Yeah, out of Tates Creek and that.
basically closer to your.
Right. Do where we can to get
And one in Tates Creek, right to the bottom right of the Morton area. Can you swing all that in?
All this here?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. The ones that are in the square anyway. Yeah, to the back of it, because the red line is where we are now, so that should go back to it.
Okay, so that brings Morton to overcapacity, and Southern and Tates Creek are still a little high.
Yeah, and we took Morton from well under to above.
109%?
Correct.
Yeah.
But we still have some of this stuff in Morton. And well, at least traditional doesn't, or Lexington doesn't have that much space.
I personally, we talked about trying to start with one school and move them around, and there seems to be resistance to it, but I think we're not done with Hayes yet. That other side of Hayes, some of that needs to be moved to Crawford to free up space in Hayes to move some of the Tates Creek folks over. And in fact, the current boundaries of people that are in Hayes that are now in Tates Creek, that we could move them back. So people have been talking about, neighborhoods and roads and things. Well, there's Todd's Road, and it's split. We can move the folks on the other side of Todd's Road into Crawford. See what it looks like.
I thought we had the numbers for Crawford.
We do have good numbers for Crawford, but we may have to take some more, or give Crawford more, so we can relieve down over in this area and have a little domino effect.
I mean, we had those, I don't see the study areas now, but we had that study area 101, and there was 110 students, you said, in that area. There's also another area, 173 there.
Yeah, the 110 students aren't going to work, because if you look at Crawford already, well, it might. That would take to the 110 students. Let's see how many students are in this area here. Or
And
0.
Crawford, that's where most of the growth is going to happen, in the area we've left in Crawford, so we don't want to make Crawford too full. Because that's where how many did you say there were, the growth was 1,200, so we don't want to take Crawford up, we need to leave that kind of low.
Well, there's less than 5 kids in all the areas we're talking about right now.
No, they're talking about 110.
Yeah, in this area, there's 110 students.
Okay, you're changing a different area, okay.
We can look at this area here, and there's
What is that?
That's where.
yeah, there's not that many students in all this area. But that would relieve Hayes a little bit, 20 more students.
And it's a natural neighborhood boundary.
The area that you have marked right now?
So which do you want to move? What do you want to move? Do you want to do? Well, there's 31 students there. So let's move some of these into Crawford.
What? Rural area. So that's part of the rural area?
Now, can we go back to Page Street and look at that?
Well, hang on just a second. Let's finish this exercise. See where it lands.
And I would like to see them put that we had before, and it looked like it worked well, the 101, 604 Andover area. It's a natural boundary.
This area here?
Yes.
Now that's 110 students, so.
Right, but there's the other side of Crawford you can relieve students as well.
What's the percentage for Crawford right now?
90.
90%? Do we want to take that up anymore if we've got 1,200 something kids coming in there?
We've got
We already had 1,200 to take through, though, too, that we have to deal with right now.
and we've got more than 1,200 growing in there. We've also got Tuscany who still has to grow, and that was
Right.
Crawford as well. That's 2,300 units right there to grow in Tuscany.
Right, so we don't want to, I don't think we want to take Crawford up more than
Let's
the
take
90%.
and go back and address the Morton Tate Street. We may
Maybe we can move them the other way.
Telling Morton kids we could move over to Crawford, and that would alleviate the Morton Tate Street issue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't know that we want to put any more in
I think our
Crawford.
problem is a capacity one right now at Crawford.
Yeah, we don't want to
We're
take it up
at
anymore.
90% if we don't move any of
You're
these.
going to have to put them somewhere.
Yeah, but we might move it the other way. Let's go ahead and look at the other areas so we can come back to this area.
Almost got 1,100 kids. Just Clark's over 1,000 kids. Come on.
Beaumont's only 91% capacity.
91%.
Beaumont has
How much growth do they have in Beaumont, do you think? Does Beaumont have,
City capacity, that's pretty well built out.
Well, the only middle school we got here is Windber. We can't take people from State Street to Windber. I mean, that's,
Well, we can move around to Beaumont because they said that there's no projected growth for Beaumont and it's at 91%, so we can put some more into Beaumont. So if we look at those borders and see what might be currently there that's pulled out by this and see if we can leave them in there instead of pulling them out. Scott, are you working on that?
No, I didn't know that was directed towards me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, and it might not have been. Just to remind everybody, and it was very, very good to tell me this, those are projected homes that could be anywhere from 5 to 7 years out. Remember that we also have a new middle school in the facilities plan, 5 to 7 years out. So after we finish your current iteration that you all are working on, we've got what Jim's folks have done, we've got what David's folks helped the city do, and that's what Scott is going to use for projections to look 5 and 7 years ahead. And maybe if you want to wait till you have those numbers to start making those types of adjustments. And the committee may also want to suggest this is where we really think a new middle school is needed, between this road and that road.
I have one more question. You mentioned Windburn and under capacity. If we're trying to move and do like I guess a domino effect, why are we not putting students that are closest from Leestown to Windburn and you go from Beaumont to Leestown? Why haven't we done that? It's way under capacity. So we're going to have to start moving people from different boundaries and moving our way up and increase the capacity at Windburn. And that's where we should probably start. And you have so much here. So we have to go from each area, study areas from each one.
Go Windburn and go counterclockwise.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea.
Was it you suggested areas? Do you want to see those?
So we want to go into the Windburn area and okay.
We want to do Windburn relative to moves we could make from Leestown. Am I understanding that correctly? And if we free up capacity at Leestown, the domino effect there moves, you know, Beaumont to Leestown, Jesse Clark to Beaumont, and Southern to Jesse Clark, and Tate Street to Southern. So we're shifting everybody around. It's going to impact an awful lot of people.
But part of that right here is where we've taken out, so we can leave in there. See, that's the part that's been taken out from the current boundary. That just, yeah, there you go. That was it. Yeah.
So they're already across the Georgetown Road.
How does that change the numbers? How does that affect the numbers of the Windburn?
Windburn is to 514 now.
Yeah, 73.
Right here.
And it was,
Right here. What? Do you have other areas you want to move? You have any suggestions?
yeah. Is there any other areas for Windburn or from Leestown you want to move into Windburn? We could go down into this area here.
Yeah.
You need the study areas.
Yeah, I need study areas. I'm not sure which one to put.
Also the area outside I-64, the interstate there, that little slice.
Which one did you pull already, the study area?
I pulled 177, 183, these up here.
Okay.
So do you want any of these?
Let's see, you got 41. Yeah. Yeah. I'll use 41.
Okay, yeah, let's try that.
You want 628, 179 also?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to free up some capacity and more.
The study area is 41. I only have one kid.
41 to
One kid.
If I'm looking at it correctly. Oh, no, this is, no, this is K-5. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so that brings Leestown to 88%, and Windburn still is at 84%. I'm sorry, Leestown's at 93%. Windburn's at 84%.
Go back north there, there's that one section that's outside the interstate that's currently inside in Leestown boundary.
This area, 480?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Sunny Hill.
Yeah, there's no students there.
Students, okay.
But I like that too.
Looks prettier.
Exactly.
Back down toward the center of this section.
So Winburn's only at 84%. It can take more students.
What about the 178, 182, 180, 181, that section?
All right, let's see what that does. I'm going to include 370. So it brings it from 84% to 97% and takes Lexington down to 75%.
With that change, what does Winburn look like free and reduced?
Already is.
But remember, we got to look at the actual students as opposed to the percentage, too. You might have missed that. I went in and broke down the resident students and by the percentage to find out actual students, and it made the free and reduced a lot different. They're a lot closer if you look at the actual number of kids as opposed to the percentages.
I can show both.
Yeah.
It's 81% free reduced. I'm sorry, 83%.
That does not take into account the accelerated cluster program out there. Is that correct?
No, it does not. Well, yeah, it's just the resident students. This is just a breakdown of the resident students.
And the accelerator will take that, lower that number.
And, you know, we indicated last meeting that, you know, redistricting may not fix those issues. So that's something we'll have to address, you know, as the board giving us information about other resources.
I agree.
You know, we didn't look at the other boundary of Winburn.
Right.
Over here, and maybe we can
Move it that way, then this comes towards Crawford.
yeah.
Bryan Station.
Right.
Bryan Station,
No, Bryan Station's already under.
they're under.
Do we want to take
Bryan Station doesn't have much room in it, but we could take some of this.
That area that was currently in that we've taken out, put it back in.
Correct. So this area is currently in. And that brings it too high, but we could take Lexington, I think, has some space now, so I'm going to take some of that and bring it to Lexington. That's currently in Lexington.
Right.
Okay, so Bryan Station now is at 419. It's kind of a... We could give these spots to either Crawford or to Winburn. I'm going to give them back to Winburn just for aesthetics.
Yeah, that's where they're at now.
That's where it's at now. All right. And actually this... Okay, now I'm going to start moving some more into Bryan Station because we're still at 83%, so we could take that back. Okay, we're at 90%. I like this area better. All right, we're about 101%, so we're right there right now. So now Winburn is down to 511. It's 73%. So,
We can have more improvement.
Hey, Scott.
yeah.
Real quick, I think it was 254 study area. My concern is the kid in that study area, I don't know how many kids, will drive past the Bryan Station on the way to Crawford.
Oh, this one right here?
Did you say 254?
I think so. Yeah, this one.
Okay, so 29 kids will drive past one school to get to another school. Or the bus will pick them up and drive them past one school on the way to another school.
Yeah, I mean, it's 29 kids.
Okay, to get it underneath capacity, I'm going to bring these back to Winburn. And we're right at 100%.
All right. That's at Bryan Station.
That's at Bryan Station. Winburn's at 80%.
What's the point of that? It is true.
Leestown is at 93. Lexington's at 86. So we could start putting some of this.
Leestown into the
Right. Well, some of Leestown and maybe a little bit of the Bryan Station into Winburn, and those kids won't have to drive past there. Move them back.
Okay, which area?
Is it 254, Lester, you looking?
Yeah, he already changed it. You got that.
Sorry, the computer's being slow right now. There we go.
No, we've already factored that in.
I'm like, if you look at what Northern is, that's 417, 487. Northern's already in my area, so they don't, I don't have to make room for them. They're already in my numbers. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'm like, Dave, if I have room and I have an out-of-area request, and you want to come, I'm taking it.
I'm going to move these areas here back to Leestown. That's where they currently are. Okay, that brings Leestown up to 100%. It leaves some room at Beaumont.
That's good.
So room at Beaumont can help relieve some of these guys over here. And room at Lexington can help relieve Morton.
Yeah.
With some of Jesse Clark going into Beaumont.
Some of this. So these two should go back into Beaumont, or these three. And we can have... You want these to go back into Beaumont also? That's a lot.
It's going to be too many.
Now, Winburn can take some more.
Right.
And we could take these three, we can put into Leestown and have Winburn take a little bit more.
Yeah, let's try that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we've got to get 80 students from Leestown. Oh wait, and these students here. Let's see. Let's move those. I'm just going to move them to Beaumont for now, and then we'll look at Beaumont later. Okay, we only have to move. We're about 15 students over at Leestown. So this is pretty good. This is a nice little boundary right here. That leaves some capacity left at Beaumont, and left a little bit of Bryan Station, Crawford. So now we could start. And Leestown's at 15% or 1% over. We can now work on Jesse Clark and Beaumont, and then hopefully eventually get to relieving these areas. So I'd say this is a good break, these study areas here.
Yeah.
457, 455. Yeah, these should go back. These should go to Beaumont.
Right.
Brings Beaumont up to its capacity. So we now need to relieve Jesse Clark a little bit. And Lexington and Winburn are available. So we can move maybe some of these into Winburn, but they're really close to Lexington, so that's hard to do. So I don't know if you guys have any idea, and I know this is going to be a very high percentage of free and reduced, I believe. But maybe we could just look at the capacity. Well, this has got to go somewhere else.
I've lost you, Scott. Where are you working?
I'm actually asking you guys where you want to work. Where you think? Because we've got to relieve. We can relieve some of Beaumont with Jesse Clark, but then we have to relieve Jesse Clark and Morton. Lexington is really the only one that has a good amount of space, and Winburn. So we have to probably use Winburn to our advantage, and either go Winburn has to go towards the center of the district, or it has to go this way.
But our biggest is
Or a little bit both.
Southern States Creek.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. What was that?
This is Ron. I just said it.
Maybe both.
Just capacity-wise, Tates Creek and Southern are the biggest problems right now. And
Right.
Winburn doesn't help that.
It will if we use the domino effect.
Right, exactly. And that's back to my original point about Hayes. But,
And that's what I'm saying. That's where we have the...
Go towards the, let's try going towards the middle.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure the committee was aware when I told you that we had left space in the three schools. Just to remind you, we did not leave any space at Lexington Traditional Magnet School because that's really flexible. We can take as many magnet kids as to fill it up, or we can take fewer magnet kids if it's full with neighborhood kids.
But we filled it with neighborhood kids and some magnet.
Right.
but moving contiguous areas from there into Winburn is just making a much larger population of free and reduced lunch kids at Winburn.
That's true. But, you know, if you look at Lexington's current area is very small and right in that same area. Oh, but yeah, but Windburn is going to be changing. Sure. So does anybody want to direct me on which ones to take, or do we want to not go this direction?
No, I think we have to go in that direction. Yeah.
Now, it's 3:20. What I can do, if it's okay with the committee, is take this and continue on trying to do these balances on my own, and then we'll discuss it later with the next committee meeting. I'll have something for you where I've done as much balancing as I possibly can, and then we can adjust from there.
I'm saying something.
But you're talking about balance to capacity.
Right, correct. And again, if you look, we're not going to get full capacity because we lowered some of those capacities. This 101% doesn't work because we've lowered these capacities to leave room for transferring. So some of them, like the 15, 1 or 2% over, is not going to be a big deal.
I guess my only concern with that is he doesn't live here, and he doesn't understand some of the ramifications of some of this, whereas we do because we live here. But
I think we're basing our decisions on a more technical assumption and not so much what we know of the area. If that was the case.
Well, I think we have to do that right now. We have to come to our conclusions based on what the data is. Mm-hmm. Clearly, there's going to be other things that are going to factor in that we're going to have to consider: neighborhoods, all sorts of things, neighborhood integrity, busing, travel, all of those things. Grandfathering is going to have to be factored in. But we've got to get to a jumping off point. I think it's got to be data-driven.
And that's what I'm saying. If he continued forward with the domino effect, then that is the technical side of removing all the other parts that we indicated.
I'd like Scott to get us to that point, and then we'll deal with those ramifications.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. I'm impartial. I'm going to make what's sense from a data standpoint. I do try to keep, as you've seen, I try to keep nice boundaries, keeping neighborhoods together and everything. And then you guys can deal with and put your input from the local people that know the ramifications. So right. That's what I've done with other districts. I think that's where we need to go here.
This is Ron. I would like to see Scott start with where we've got right now, where we've ended up, and do his thing and try to get more balance for capacity, and then see what ramifications that has for elementary schools. That's really where the neighborhood thing comes in.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Scott, can you get this to us before next Thursday so we have some time to take a look at it before we jump in?
Well, that's where we need to discuss about when our next meeting is, because there is confusion about whether this committee decided last week that you were going to meet on the 2nd or the 4th. Yeah, remember, next Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Next Thursday, I'm not going to be here. It's Thanksgiving.
Even if I cook?
Yeah. That's, yeah.
The only thing on the big screen next Thursday is going to be a football game.
Well, the committee decided to meet on the 4th, because I'm not going to be able to be there, but we decided to meet on the 4th was my recollection. So
I prefer the 4th.
Okay, the only issue with the 4th is that is the next Board of Education meeting.
Do they meet in here?
They meet in here.
They can meet somewhere else.
You know what? Yeah. They're trying to hire a new superintendent.
Well, I mean, Darryl could talk to the board. You could meet in Northworthy for your planning meeting.
We just have to make sure we can take the photos.
And you can, yeah. Okay. So Darryl's going to take that on.
Is that doable? Okay.
Make an executive decision.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Let me see if any of the board.
What about? All right. We're making an executive decision here. It's Thursday the 4th.
Okay.
Okay.
And we will have the board.
There's only 5 of them for that.
Okay. So,
Y'all can meet about.
yes, Jane.
Yeah, for that.
Is December 18th. will not meet again until January. And then we have a Thursday night commitment every Thursday in January, except that Scott cannot meet on January 29th.
Did we get Isaac, Oscar?
We get Oscar, but I don't know if he'll know what he's doing. Yeah, we can get Isaac.
Or you guys could skip that week.
No.
Okay.
We're not going to skip any weeks. We got to keep chugging it.
I do think that you lost ground, though, working with Isaac, because you guys have a thing with Scott. No, it's not, and I shared it with Scott. Scott and Isaac have completely different working styles.
Well, Isaac was definitely not Scott. I would agree with that.
So you want to wait and see where we are in
Are
January?
you on that whole week? If we move that week to a Tuesday, does that help?
Yeah, I'm available Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday.
Okay, let's move it to Tuesday.
Okay, so let's, then the last week, everybody put your iPhones and Androids and everything out. So now 29th, it would be January 27th from 4:30 to 6:30.
That'll work for me.
Can we get a thumbs up from the committee?
We got
Okay.
it. Good.
So the conclusion where we are right now is Scott is going to try to move you forward a little. We're going to get that to you. Scott, do you think we can do that by next week, Monday?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Tuesday?
I'll get it to you as soon as possible. It'll be well enough time that you can look at it over your Thanksgiving table.
Wow.
Okay.
We're coming to your house first.
There we go. I've already got 13. There's room for more. And if you want to come on Friday, I'm doing gumbo. Okay, so Scott, you have direction from us.
Okay.
Committee, you know where you're headed. Community, thank you. You're watching them make sausage, and that's ugly. That's why, no one watches the sausage get made. So, but we're glad that you're here because it's important for everybody to see that this is truly something that is trial and error, and it's an organic process that's happening as we go.
Anyone else from the committee? Anything else to say? If not, everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And be thinking about this every waking moment.
Okay, I'm logging off, guys. Thank you very much. We'll have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
I'm stressed. I need to order my pants. Nope, okay.